Well, welcome to the Las Vegas Sports Talk Show here with TC Martin. I call him Take Care. TC, that's what it stands for. Take Care, Martin. And your host here, Joe Cortez. TC Martin, one of my dear friends for over 25 years, one of the best sports broadcasters in the world as far as I'm concerned. I'm biased. I love you, brother.
I love you too, Joe. He's fair, but he's firm, but he's talking some truth there, right there.
No, that's for sure. Now, last night we're here on our special show. This is our first opening of the Las Vegas Sports Talk Show, going live around the world to share with you what we witnessed last night in person. I was at ringside. TC Martin was there at ringside as well. TC, tell me, how do you take what did you say about the fight last night?
Joe, I really thought that it was pretty much what we had talked about last week. It just unfolded exactly as you called it, and I totally agreed with you. I thought that Manny's speed and power was going to be way too much for Keith Thurman, and that's exactly what happened. I was a little bit surprised that we saw it that quick and that early with the knockdown in round number one. And it was Manny Pacquiao at his finest. It was vintage Manny Pacquiao. This is what he does. And as I like to say, as we know, age ain't nothing but a number. He showed that last night. 40 years old, forget about it. The speed, the power was too much for Thurman.
Not 40 years old, 40 years young.
That's right.
That's right. When I talk about boxing, I tell you, I've been around boxing most of my life. I could go back 60 years of boxing in my life, and I can tell you that Manny Pacquiao has been one of the best I have ever seen. Not because he's a good fighter and he has just broken all kinds of records. I mean, he's been a 8-time different divisions, 8 divisions. I mean, who the heck has ever done that before?
Nobody. And that's why we need to start talking about Manny Pacquiao in the term of the greatest, or definitely one of the greatest of all time. And, people are ready to write him off after the Mayweather loss and then the controversial loss to Horn, which was ridiculous. But since that, he's done nothing but win. He's shown complete control in all of his fights. We're seeing more of the power now with Manny Pacquiao. And to me, Joe, he seems like he's reinvigorated right now. And if these guys want to keep using the age card with him, that just continues to get him motivated. And Thurman just played right into this by all the trash talking that he did this past week, and talking to Manny and talking to Freddie Roach during the course of the week, and then again after the fight last night. That pushed Manny's buttons. And I want to see more Manny Pacquiao. Who doesn't?
Yeah, who doesn't? The guy definitely sells out the house. I want to say a quick shout out to my partner up in the United Kingdom, Dan Hewitt, Boxing TV. And Dan Hewitt, I know you saw that fight last night, all the fans of the United Kingdom. You have to say, Manny Pacquiao is the real deal. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, when he got knocked out by Juan Marquez about 7 years ago, I thought that was it for Pacquiao. Everybody said, that's it. He got knocked out cold. He was stretched on the canvas there for about 2 minutes or so. He was there, no, that's it. But the man keeps coming back. I mean, like, who the heck can ever do that? Now, Manny Pacquiao, I spoke to him Wednesday doing training. He was asking me a couple of questions about some things that he was doing boxing last night. And I talked to him in the dressing room before the fight last night. I got in the dressing room. He came right over to me, and I was talking to him in his ear. I just telling him some clues, some hints on how he can, again, beat Thurman. And the camera's all around me, so I had to really whisper, talking like whisper. I don't want to pick up what I'm telling him because it was all secret stuff. And actually, he did what I predicted he would do. That was keep that lateral movement, keep the head moving, the speed, and the power. He did it all. Yeah. It was just a matter of let nobody get into your head before the fight. And Manny did the other time. Manny's been around for a long time. He's been there on this trash talking against it so many times, and over and over and over, he keeps proving to the world that all that trash talk is nothing. He does let his fist do the talking for him.
And the biggest takeaway for me, Joe, was the experience factor. And Thurman was a great competitor. He's 29-0 coming into this fight with 22 knockouts. But Manny Pacquiao, with that experience, fighting in the MGM Grand Garden for the 16th time last night, and then countless other times, around Las Vegas. But this is only the third time Keith Thurman was fighting here in Las Vegas, and the other two were on undercards of Floyd Mayweather. And you could just see that this was old hat for Manny. This is what he does, and he just relished the moment. He never got swayed with anything. And all the trash talking that Thurman was trying to do, trying to get in Manny's head, like you said, no way in the world that is going to work against a veteran like Manny Pacquiao. And Manny just seemed to take it all in. He stayed steady the course the entire week leading up to the fight. and it was vintage Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, Manny Pacquiao is truly one of the better ones out there. And I can tell you that when he put Keith Thurman down in the first round, come on, you know, it was like, I said, he's taking control. At first it looked like Keith Thurman was feeling him, but they were feeling each other out. But Manny said, you know what, let me try my right hook, which is a sneaky punch to get it. When you throw a right hook this way here, you know, he's faking him with this one, and all of a sudden, bang, down goes Keith Thurman. I jumped out of my seat. I said, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? Did it not early of a knockout? You know? But it was a great fight. I got to take my hat off to Keith Thurman. He fought a great fight.
He did.
You know?
He battled back pretty nice.
But I thought that in the 10th round, when he hit it with that body shot, I had said that he's going to stop putting the pressure. And by the 10th round, he's going to put him away. And hit it with that body shot, and Keith Thurman was ready to go down. That's the worst shot. That's a pain. He could forget it. He would never forget that one punch in the fight. That's the one that hurts the most.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. We thought, you know, coming into this fight that maybe Manny could be susceptible to the body shots, and it was the other way around as we found out. And going back to that, you know, Thurman always is usually a pretty fast starter. You know, rounds 1 and 2, and then he kind of settles into being a counter puncher, and then he got rocked so good. There's no doubt in my mind that changed the course of the fight at that moment at the end of round number 1, because Manny won 4 of the 5 rounds on 2 of the judges' scorecards. On Tim Cheatham's scorecard, he won all 5 rounds, and that's why I had it as well too. I had Manny winning the first 5 rounds, and it took a while for Keith Thurman to get the cobwebs out, so to speak, or whatever it was, because he didn't know what hit him, especially with that first round. And then he came out all fired up, and he thought he was really going to be able to dictate the pace. He thought he was going to have Manny feel his power, and it went the opposite way. We heard him talk in a press conference on Wednesday saying, I'm betting on myself, first round knockout, second round knockout. Well, he was almost right the other way around, right?
That's right. I mean, Manny really proved to the world last night that he had what it takes to be the best out there. I mean, 147-pound class, you have so many, there's Ugas, you got Earl Spence Jr., you got Sean Porter, you got Danny Garcia, Clarence Crawford, and Keith Thurman. I mean, these is a hotbed of the 147-pounder. Now, you know, Crawford is one of the ones that people are saying, well, how come he's not in the mix? You know, he's such a great fighter. What's happening with him? What's going on?
Well, we know what it is. It's the politics of boxing, as we all know. And this is the side, you know, as much as we love this sport, there is that side of the sport that is very, very ugly. And he's a top-ranked fighter under Bob Arum. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with Al Heyman and Bob Arum, they don't play nice together. Even though Bob will say, hey, we'll make the fight. But when you get into this type of thing where we're different camps, it's tough to make these fights, to agree on the percentages. You have different television networks. And Bob Arum and Top Rank have the ESPN deal right now, which Terrence Crawford fights for. And like you said, Joe, he's probably could be maybe the elite welterweight, but are we ever going to be able to see him fight? Because the problem is with PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, they have all those guys that you mentioned. They have Keith Thurman, they have Sean Porter, they have Earl Spence, and now they have Manny Pacquiao, so it's easy to make those fights amongst those 4 guys. You throw in Ugas in the mix, who Sean Porter beat before, and we saw him win last night, but all of these guys are under that umbrella, so it's easier to make those fights. We need to see a match in here with Terrence Crawford, because arguably you can make the case he's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world.
Right. Well, I'll tell you that Ugas is last night won over Omar Figueroa. It was not the best fight to watch. I mean, it was so much holding. Even Rosamore had to give a point for Ugas for excessive holding. And but the welterweight division definitely reminded me of the days when Hagler, Leonard, Duran, Leonard. I mean, it was just all these 4, they were fighting each other back and forth. It just reminds me a little bit of that. But only good welterweight that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. In those days, going back to the 80s, those were prime boxing, days, especially when those guys all fought each other as well too.
Right.
So yeah, we're seeing that. And if we look at boxing right now, the welterweight division definitely is the king of all divisions.
I was pretty impressed last night, TC, with Caleb Plant, the super middleweight WBA champion. He put away Mike Lee, stopping him in the second round. He put him down about 3 times, and the referee, Robert Perez, swore him up. This kid was really, he took a pounding. I mean, he did a lot of trash talk about Caleb Plant as well, but Caleb Plant, one of the first class. I mean, the guy's really, he's a gem. And inside the ring and outside the ring. He has good punching power. he really took care of Lee last night.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen in that super middleweight division?
You know, you look at Plant, and then you got David Benavidez, and that's a matchup that's probably going to happen. But outside of that, it's just not real attractive. I mean, Caleb Plant's been around this game for quite some time, and a lot of people really don't know him. Mike Lee, this was a mismatch from the beginning last night. I mean, Caleb Plant was a huge favorite in this contest, and like you said, he took care of business, knocked him down 3 times. Second round, Robert Byrd said that's enough. So it's intriguing, but I just don't think that we're at the point where you have a superstar matchup right now in that division, unless one guy that we know steps up to 168, a guy by the name of Canelo Alvarez.
Well, he already won the super middleweight championship against Rocky Fielding last year, and Rocky Fielding, you never heard of him since then, and I never heard of him before that fight. But anyway, here he is. Canelo, he's probably licking his chops too. He's saying, you know what? There's a lot of good middleweights out there, but he's supposed to step up. Doesn't even talk about Canelo fighting. What's the name of the Russian fighter?
Kovalev.
Kovalev.
Yeah, with Kathy Duva in main event. So I was talking to Kathy this past week, and she was saying that, hey, that's a fight that obviously that they want, but that fight would have to be made at 175 pounds. A lot of people say, wow, Canelo at 175, he's fought there before, believe it or not, but he's basically cleaned up 154, cleaned up 160, and I think the only fight that people probably want to see again is Canelo and Triple G. Yeah. But I don't know do you want to see that fight again?
I want to see, to settle the score once and for all. I mean, there was a Manny Pacquiao versus Juan and Marquez, and they fought 4 times. Yeah. Sometimes these trilogies are good, but I think it will settle the score once and for all. I mean, Manny Pacquiao was winning against Juan and Marquez, and at the end of the 4th fight, what happened? Marquez knocked out Pacquiao. So anything can happen. Can you imagine Kovalev stopping Canelo Alvarez?
That's an intriguing matchup just because of the power that Kovalev has. But we've seen Kovalev against Andre Ward, and who's a very slick style fighter that has great speed and punching power, and it was really too much for Kovalev. So I don't know if I want to see that fight. I think Canelo would take care of business, even though it's added weight. But when you're talking about one of the greats right now that we're seeing is Canelo Alvarez, and he's doing it while he's moving up the ladder in weight as well too.
That contract he signed with
DAZN. Yeah.
DAZN for, is it DAZN or DAZN?
It's DAZN.
DAZN. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, DAZN signed a $365 million package deal. That's a 8-fight package deal that averages about $33 million per fight.
Right.
$33 million. I'm making a comeback myself. Now, that kind of money is out there. Damn.
You're ready to go, Joe. I know.
Yeah.
I don't call you Joltin' Joe for no reason.
That's it.
There you go.
So tell me, TC, the boxing today, they're saying that boxing and UFC, MMA is taking over boxing. How do you see that?
I don't see that. You're probably talking to the wrong guy if you want to start talking MMA and UFC. I'm an old school guy like you, Joe, and I love the sweet science of boxing, always have. And to me, UFC is an afterthought to a certain degree. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but when you look at the rich tradition that boxing has compared to what MMA and UFC has, that's a nice little niche audience. That's fine. It's okay. But we've seen what happens when these MMA guys want to try to get in the ring with boxers. Okay, it's a totally different situation. And again, for me, I'm not an octagon guy. I'm a squared circle guy. So if you're saying that MMA or UFC is overtaking boxing, I'm not buying that, because we continue to have these great fights in the sport of boxing. And you know what we have in UFC, Joe, that we don't have in boxing? You have a lot more cancellations. You have a lot of guys that are dropping out of fights in the last minute, and Dana White has his hands full with a lot of stuff.
Why is that?
I don't know what it is. I really don't. I don't know if it's...
Are they getting cold feet, or are they really getting hurt, or what?
I really don't know.
I got a feeling that they're getting injured because, with the way they kick each other and all that, I think you're more prone to get hurt in MMA than you do in boxing. Because I think doing training, that is, because these guys, they hit each other. But I remember when I was training Conor McGregor for the Mayweather fight.
That's right.
They brought me in to train Conor, just on the rules on boxing, and it was a great experience. Working there for 5 weeks, having Conor, and that's another guy that why did he go into boxing to challenge Floyd Mayweather? You know, it's all about money.
Exactly.
Because you know he made a cool $100 million for that fight. He would have never made that kind of money in the MMA sport.
Right.
You know,
right.
and then you got these other guys. The kid from Japan that fought Mayweather, also in Japan earlier this year, I believe it was, and he knocked him out in one round.
Yeah.
Again, he was so distraught, this kid, because he was undefeated.
Right.
But when he went to boxing, the sweet sides of boxing, they fall apart.
I agree
you know?
with you. I wholeheartedly agree.
And you got Holly Holmes, when she fought the young lady, what's the girl that was undefeated, knocking everybody out?
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. She got stopped by Holly Holmes as well.
Yeah.
You see, when you go in there with somebody sweet side compared to the mixed martial arts, it's a big difference.
I agree with you. And let's talk a little bit about Floyd Mayweather. You mentioned him, and he's been taking time off, but he's been doing these exhibitions, and he's going to Japan. He spent a lot of time in Russia, and of course, we knew that we were going to get this talk about Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather again. And of course, the buzz in the arena was all about that last night, and the television networks were spewing those questions at Leonard Ellerbe and of course Freddie Roach and Manny Pacquiao last night. Let me ask you, Joe, do you want to see a rematch with Pacquiao and Mayweather at this time?
You know what? I like to see it because now they're both in their 40s. I can call it the seniors fight of the century. You know, you got these guys both in their 40s, man. You got to be. You can call it the citizens.
Call it whatever you want, right?
Oh my God! These guys. I mean, these guys will be walking around in walkers pretty soon. They're talking about competing with one another. But you know, they both still have a lot of class. They got a lot of boxing. I mean, Manny proved it last night.
Well, yeah, I think with Manny, we know what he's got because he stayed active. Okay? You got to remember, everyone's talking about Manny Pacquiao being 40 years old. Floyd Mayweather is 43 and has been inactive. And as you probably know, and we talked to a lot of boxers, and Keith Thurman was a victim of this as well. He stepped away from the ring for 22 months, nearly 2 years. He got married. He had hand injuries, he had elbow injuries, and when you start to have other interests outside of boxing, then that's going to catch up with you. And I think that was part of what was wrong with Keith Thurman in the last fight against Lopez, who you mentioned. That's what you mentioned this past week on my show, and we saw that with Keith Thurman. But with Floyd Mayweather, he's been away from the ring even longer than that. So honestly, Joe, if this fight does happen, Mayweather-Pacquiao again, Manny Pacquiao would be the favorite.
Yeah, you know, people will definitely buy the fight though. I mean, he wants to get revenge, and this is one way to get it now. Get it now. I mean, come on. I mean, now he has a good chance to beat Mayweather because, like you said, Mayweather's been inactive for so long. Yeah, this guy Pacquiao's been consistent. He's fighting every year. He's always fighting once or twice a year, and I think it'll be a fight that I think the fans will buy it.
You know, we know that styles make fights, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the fact. Plain and simple. Last night you had great contrasting of styles that made fight. You had Pacquiao's speed and power, and then you had Keith Thurman with his one-time thing. With Mayweather and Pacquiao, do we want to see that fight because of the styles? And people are talking, well, 2015 didn't live up to it. In my opinion, it's because of Manny's serious shoulder injury, which he had to have surgery right after that. Okay, Mayweather had some hand issues, but that really wasn't that publicized. But because of Floyd's inactivity, like in the ring itself, because he is such a counterpuncher and he's a brilliant defensive fighter, I don't know if I want to see Mayweather in the ring anymore. Because let's face it, his last few fights, probably the last 4 or 5 fights, they were uninspiring to the audience.
Yeah, well, Mayweather never had the style that the fans really like. They want to see these sluggers. Like last night, these two guys were going at each other. I know the fans want to see Mayweather. The name of the game is hit, don't get hit. He keep getting that undefeated record. I mean, he's got it going like 50 and 0 now.
Props for him for that.
Yeah, props for him for that. But fans don't like that. Fans want to see a fight. They want to see a slugfest. You know, and last night you saw a good slugfest. I mean, I think everybody walked out there saying, you know what, this was a fight. Yeah. This was not I didn't lose my money. All that pay-per-view, they got their money towards it. With that fight, the other card was so-so, but the main event was definitely, and I'm glad it was not a one-round knockout like Tyson when he used to knock out his opponents in one round. People, before they were coming to sit down in the arena, they'd be out there getting a drink, but by the time they get to their seat, the fight is already over. Right. I remember when he knocked out Michael Spinks in 92 seconds of the first round.
And Bruce Seldon too, remember that fight?
Yeah, Bruce Seldon. And I refereed Mike Tyson one time when it was my instructions was longer than the fight. 30 seconds in the first round, it was over. You know, I said, wow, you know, I didn't even get a sweat that night. I mean, I just gave me the instructions before I knew it, I'm stopping it, you know. Wow.
But you got paid that night. You earned your paycheck, right? Probably not. You probably didn't earn your paycheck that night.
They wanted to keep my check. I said, give me that check, man, before I get mad. I want my money. I said, Joe, you didn't work tonight, man.
You know what? I give Kenny Bayless a bad time every once in a while like this. And last night, Kenny Bayless was fantastic.
Oh,
you didn't even notice Kenny Bayless, but he has such command in that ring, and he didn't have to get in there and break up the fighters. That's another angle or aspect that no one's really talking about. It was a beautiful fight to watch from that standpoint.
Exactly. You know, I told Kenny before the fight, Kenny, what do you got to watch for is the head, because you know, the Pacquiao southpaw, and watch, make sure they don't step by each other's foot. That's prone to happen. Bound to happen, especially when you got a southpaw in there. And Kenny did an excellent job, and Kenny gave good instructions, pre-fight instructions in the dressing room, and that's where you take control. Back in the dressing room to make sure you get a clean fight. And I'll tell you, I didn't see any flaws at all last night. He waited for me to fight it. Just for a spectacular fight, clean cut all the way through.
Would you say Kenny Bayless is the best referee in the business right now?
I would say he is one of the best. I say him and the West Coast, and I got Benji Stevens on the East Coast. Benji came out last year to do one of the big fights out here, and I think that Kenny is one of the best referees out there. I think he's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer, that's for sure. I guarantee you that, because Kenny, I mean, from day one when I started working with him, Richard Steele started working with him. You know, it was a while back when Kenny was thinking about quitting because
I remember those days.
He wasn't getting the big fights.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, Kenny, don't worry, we're going to take care of this. The new commissioner came on board and said, Joe, what can we do to make boxing better than Nevada? I said, give me a shot, some of the young referees here. Kenny Bayless, one of the 20 weeks, another good referee. You know, and you got a Russell Moore, and you have Jay Nady and Robert Bird. You have Vic Draculich. You have a good half a dozen good referees out there that have been around the block a couple of times, but Kenny definitely one of the better ones, if not the best one out there in boxing today.
He was trained by a pretty good guy. I know who that is too.
Well, Kenny Bayless is one of my favorites. He was a high school teacher.
PE teacher,
yeah. And he was one of the best. Every time I run to people, he was my teacher back when I was in junior high school. And these guys are walking around with canes. I said, "What, man? Come on, you're not." Yeah. He was my teacher. Man, you look like. You sure he was your teacher? They look like they're 75 years old. They're walking around, and Kenny was your teacher. And Kenny was good for his age, too.
Yeah, he does. You know? Yeah, he does.
He keeps himself physically fit, always ready to go, and as sharp as can be. I mean, I love his performance in the ring all the time.
So two guys, Joe, that have been very instrumental in this welterweight division. Yesterday at the press conference, it was announced officially Sean Porter and Earl Spence are going to fight September the 28th in Los Angeles. How do you see this fight?
You know, I always felt that Earl Spence, good fighter, has good technique, he's a good puncher. He's a lot younger as far as experience is concerned than Sean Porter. Sean Porter's a little pit bull. You know, Sean Porter gave Keith Thurman a run for his money. I thought I was on with Sean Porter. I worked in his corner that night, and I thought that he actually beat Keith Thurman. It was a very close fight. They gave it to Keith Thurman, and I still feel that today Keith Thurman will outclass Earl Spence for sure. You know, it's gonna be a tough fight. It's only like last night's fight. It's that kind of a fight.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. And basically, Manny Pacquiao will probably fight the winner of that fight, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Manny said he's going to go back to the Philippines and he's going to go back to work as a senator, and then he's going to take some time off and then start training again. And it sounds like spring of next year we could see Manny Pacquiao fight either Porter or Spence.
Yeah, I think that'll be a hell of a fight to watch. I know that both of these fighters will be licking their chops. They want to make sure they win this fight. That's why it's going to be such an interesting fight. Earl Spence with Porter, because they know they got to crack Manny Pacquiao. And then it was like last night. Keith Thurman, great fighter, undefeated. His first pay-per-view event ever. You know, now he made a good chunk of change last night. Where if he didn't fight Pacquiao, I mean, everybody knows you fight Pacquiao, you're going to make some money.
Right.
You know, you can secure that money for the rest of your life and do something with it.
So we had the purses last night. Manny Pacquiao got $10 million, and Keith Thurman got $2 million, but they're both getting more than that with the percentages of the pay-per-view as well. Last night.
So you would say maybe Pacquiao walk away with about $18 million?
Probably, yeah, right around that. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to watch these guys fight. But that's still not the kind of money that Floyd Mayweather would accept. Floyd Mayweather want to walk away with $100 million, $150 million.
Right.
That's why he's the richest athlete in any sport. He became a billionaire in boxing. $1 billion in boxing.
But you notice, Joe, that when people talk about Floyd Mayweather, that's what they talk about. They talk about the money. Last night, no one even talked about the purses last night because we didn't need to, because we were so into the sweet science. We were into the matchup between Pacquiao and Thurman last night, and that was the beautiful part of it.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I was sitting there at ringside, and I was watching the preliminary fight, but I was saying, come on, hurry up, I want to see the main event. That's the fight I want to see.
Right.
This is one of the most intriguing fights I want to ever see, because it was building up to such a fight. I think it was going to be like one of the better ones, and it was. I think that fight will go down in the books as one of the best fights in the welterweight division, in the history of welterweight division.
So let me ask you this, because from a referee standpoint and then the judges standpoint, we had three judges last night. I felt that the two of the judges had it spot on. Tim Cheatham and Dave Moretti had it right on at 115, 112. That's the way I scored it.
Yeah.
But then Glenn Feldman had 114, 113 for Thurman. What fight was he watching? Was he watching the same fight we were watching?
Well, I say that's why they say I have three judges at three different sides of the ring. They're not all sitting together. They all see it from different angles. I still say you got to raise the position of the judges a little higher so they can see better. They're missing a lot of punches there. And sitting there ringside, a lot of punches were thrown. I don't know if they're connected or not. But if you raise me up a little bit higher looking down, you have the cameras, I think the people at home get a better view watching on TV than they do in person, because you get the angles of the camera, you can't miss those punches.
Right. You know what I thought was interesting? I went back and I looked at all three judges' scorecards from last night, and then I looked at Feldman's scorecard, and he gave Keith Thurman the 12th and final round, where the other two judges gave it to Manny, which I agree with. So if he scores that fight, or rather scores that 12th round for Manny Pacquiao, then it's 114-113. Pacquiao, no one's really talking too much today about the decision. It's not a split decision. It's a unanimous decision. But I don't know how he could give that 10th round, or rather, I'm sorry, the 12th round to Keith Thurman.
Well, so like I said before, it depends where you're sitting. And I did a study one day, and I put the judges at a high level just to do a study, just to see what kind of punches they miss. And from up on the upper level looking down to the ring, they only miss 1 to 2 punches per round. And I think judges, every round for 4 rounds, it was always on the top. They hardly missed any punch on the bottom. They were missing anywhere from 9 to 19 punches per round per judge. So it tells you a lot about positioning. I think that from day one, when they started boxing, they just gave the position of the boxing judges at the standard position right at a ring apron. They started wrong. How come in tennis they have the umpires sitting up high? They look down and they can see the lines better. So I think the positioning means a lot for boxing.
Let me ask you this. Well, could you see boxing going to maybe having the judges maybe not even be at ringside, but kind of like the way the NFL does with instant replay, and maybe they're watching on a monitor, maybe above, like on the mezzanine or somewhere, like where the broadcasters are?
It's a possibility that can happen. I've watched some fights like that when I do some work with ESPN, and it's not the same. I mean, you can see it, but it's nothing like seeing it right there close up in person. I mean, I'll say raise them up a little higher. I can see that happening better than having it scoring from a room back in up in the nosebleed section. I don't buy that.
Yeah.
Well, TC, I want to say congratulations and for our first show here with the Las Vegas Sports Talk Show, and our viewers around the world, United Kingdom. We have Boxing TV, our friend Dan Hewitt, and all the fans in Great Britain. I want to wish you the very best. John, a little word there before we wrap it up.
Joe, it's always a pleasure, working with you and seeing you, and your knowledge of the sweet science is fantastic. I mean, you look great as we see right here. You're the man, and you know, when we're talking boxing, or just any sport for that matter, I love your intellect, love your insight. It's always a pleasure working with you, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. And I see you got your shirt here, Aces.
That's right.
From here you go to
That's it.
call the game.
Got to go call the game. WNBA Las Vegas Aces. We got the All-Star game in town too, with Las Vegas next week as well too. So the Aces, they're playing good, first place, and supporting the WNBA. They got the greatest ladies in the world playing professional basketball.
Well, wish you luck with that. You're going to be one of the commentators for the game.
Yes, doing the All-Star game as well too.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
You got it, brother.
Okay, brother. Take care. My fans out there, keep your guards up at all times. Protect yourselves at all times. And remember, we're both fair but firm.
You got it.
Take care.